Hello, welcome to Spotlight. I'm Fran Pellegrino. My guest today is the Executive Director of the Women's City Club of New York. And welcome, Jacqueline Ebanks. So glad you could make it, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much,
I'm so
Fran.
happy to meet you.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. Now, Jacqueline, I want you to tell us the mission of the Women's City Club.
Great.
And the goals, and then we'll hear a little bit about your background, because I know you have a lot to tell us about these things.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you so much again for this opportunity.
My
the
pleasure.
Women's City Club is 100 years old. We are created as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We're dedicated to engage women in promoting public policy that increases the quality of life or improves the quality of life for all New Yorkers. We spend a lot of time educating the public on the challenges that New Yorkers face. We also spend quite a bit of time identifying solutions for those problems and then advocating for them. And so we create opportunity for dialogue. We create opportunity for dialogue with our legislators. We create opportunity for dialogue with people with different points of view. And then our ultimate goal is, how do we improve life for New Yorkers? And the real point of WCC is that the average citizen, women, have a role in making our city function well. And we really ought to step up to that challenge of being informed citizens and constantly present in driving positive change in New York City.
and this is your 100th year anniversary.
It is.
And I want to inform everyone who is watching that the conference for the 100th anniversary is at this time. We're taping before the conference, and it is taking place on September 29th,
Right.
2016. Unfortunately, you will probably see this program after that. But if you wish to view some of the video from the conference, you can go to the website, which you will see up here. As a matter of fact, it's up right now. And I would imagine a few weeks after.
After the conference.
If not, keep checking back, and it'll be up there eventually. But Jacqueline
Either works.
is here to tell us some things that will be happening at the conference.
Absolutely. The conference is titled From Inequality to Equality, Policies and Programs That Work. And when we conceptualized this conference, the idea was New York City has huge disparities. We continue to be the area in the nation with the largest disparity between the highest income earners and the lowest income earners. And
Did you say we're
New York City,
the highest
we have the
difference?
We have the greatest difference among
I mean, the
high income
biggest
earners.
difference?
Yes, and so with that issue, it reveals itself with 60,000 people homeless. It reveals itself with the high poverty rate, although shrinking. You find that with high unemployment. You find that situation also revealing itself in an increased violence against women because of the tenuous nature of the economic infrastructure. And so we really wanted to look at these issues and the movement from inequality to equality. We talk a lot about inequality, but we know that there are policies and there are programs that work. And we want to spend some time in the conference highlighting those things that work. And we're looking at 4 areas of challenge: health, education, employment, and housing and homelessness. And those things work together so much to lend security to an individual or a family. And the members were really committed, WCC members, that we know the problem, we need to talk about the problem, we need to define it better, but we really need to spend time looking at solutions. And when we do that, we want to look at how we help the solution benefit more individuals. So that now we know that a few people benefit from the minimum wage increase, or a few people benefit from good schools. How can we ensure that more New Yorkers benefit from the positive changes that have occurred in programs? And the other feature is that we really are highlighting nonprofit organizations, and they are critical to the infrastructure and well-being of New York City. And they provide the services that help our low-income citizens move from insecurity, economic insecurity, to economic security. And that's where the work's happening, in community. And so we get a chance at the conference to highlight these incredible workers in the field and have them showcase their solutions. And hopefully we call people to work with these nonprofit providers.
And you do have a volunteer program which they help with your task forces.
Right.
And some of them right now are.
So let me tell you,
if anybody wants to call, then the phone number is up there as well to volunteer for some of these things. Or you can volunteer, I guess, through the website as well.
You totally can volunteer through the website. On our website, we list the meetings that are happening. And let me tell you a bit about first becoming a member of WCC.
Oh, okay.
We are open to all women being members and from all boroughs.
Women.
And we do take a few enlightened men. So
You do?
actually we're
Okay.
open to all citizens being, but the emphasis is really to build the leadership of women in the area of civic
Right.
life, right? So that's where we put our emphasis. As a part of that process, our board 10 years ago, and I'm really pleased, I started at the organization 3 years ago, but was just impressed that the board made this policy decision, which was to allow women under 35 to have membership for 2 years at no cost. And we have a small membership fee. Visit our website, you'll see that information. And we accept the membership fee monthly as well so that we can reduce the burden. The fee is not meant to be a barrier.
And you want young women to be involved. And
Exactly.
you know, whatever
Well,
the
as
cost
we always
is,
say, they're the future,
it's-
right?
yes,
So,
exactly.
and we really want to spend, the fact is, we have accomplished a lot as women in the 21st century. And the founding mothers, as I like to call them, of the Women's City Club were women like Frances Perkins, who was the first, as you know, woman member of the United States cabinet in FDR's time. She was a Secretary of Labor, and her work really, as she founded WCC, her work led her to create Social Security, the unemployment benefits, things of that nature that we still live and benefit from today.
She
But
created.
she created through with FDR, and I know
And
everybody
Eleanor
says
Roosevelt was very much a part of it.
Eleanor
correct?
Roosevelt was
I
a
did
member
it.
as
Mhm,
well.
that's
5 years after the organization started, she became a member and was a member for 5 years, where she was legislative director and a member of our board. So they were very active and engaged. In addition, we had Lillian Wald. Lillian Wald founded Henry Street Settlement. And I learned, as I've studied these.
I had gone to many years ago. I went to see a show at Henry Street
Yes.
Settlement. I remember.
So it's this really, stellar settlement house, and although debated, we believe it was the first settlement house definitely in New York and probably in the nation. So this incredible work of social justice, social change, that's the foundation of our institution. And we now have a challenge in the second century to really carry forward so that women in the future can benefit as we have from the work of women in the past. And that's really what WCC needs. We are stepping up to the plate in this second century. So we've spent this entire year celebrating our first century of work and setting the launch pad, if you will, for the second century. So let me tell you about the task forces. That's where we started. We have, at this point, 4 task forces that work on what we call policy issues. One has worked on the issue of sex ed in public schools. Another has looked at the issue of public housing. A third is looking at the issue of fair work, the idea of predictability of schedules so that individuals can plan both financially and for the quality of life they wish to have. And then the fourth is looking at community and workplace support for nursing mothers. really important issues that undergird families. So in the area of nursing mothers, very often, and I think you've seen this in the media, there is resistance to women as they return to work after giving birth, breastfeeding, or
People get
even just
nervous.
breastfeeding in the park,
Yeah,
feeding a hungry child. And we know how nutritious breast milk is and how important it is for the health of children. We need to create supportive spaces in order to enable women to do that freely.
There are some companies, very progressive ones probably, who are creating space
Right.
where the
So-
children actually, there's babysitters there, and
Right.
but they're very few, I bet.
Those are very
I
few.
don't know that much about
Right.
the numbers, but what do you think?
So very few in terms of having,
few?
and certainly in New York City, having daycare available on
Yeah.
site, right? But the
One place they have it usually is when you go to do workout.
workouts.
A lot of those places.
Some
have them.
gyms tend
Some
to have
gyms,
that.
yeah.
And then, but the other thing is for nursing mothers, we want lactation spaces in public facilities. Now, one of the things we think about, for example, is that the Brooklyn Borough president has created a lactation space in Brooklyn Borough Hall. And that's really,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like
a
a
wonderful
room and
a
just-
room, and so that women can come and breastfeed, or
yeah.
and so we want to make it the norm in New York City that these spaces are available in friendly environments for women to take care of the feeding and nurturing of their children. And I think that's an important element. And so we're beginning to do work around that issue. In the issue of fair work, the issue of predictability, really understanding that is important, particularly for low-income workers, once scheduled to work, to be able to rely on that schedule and to not have it canceled a day before, 2 hours before, because that's an income that we are depriving a family and an individual of. It's a resource. And the instability that it creates, and it limits the family's ability or the individual's ability to plan for the life they wish to have. So, I'm just going to, those are sort of two of the issues.
You have a lot
We have a lot to
tell us.
talk about.
Yeah.
In the area of sex ed in public schools, we spent about 2 years looking at this issue because our members were concerned that there was a mandate from the prior administration to ensure that sex education is provided in schools. And we weren't clear that it was being followed. We really didn't understand the nature of the mandate. And they also spent time studying and wanting to get data. Was it being done? And we realized that data was inaccessible. And so
Very difficult to get.
very difficult
Very
to get.
good.
Very difficult to get. And so in coalition with other nonprofit partners, they really started to look at this issue and were able to have, through the legislature, some bills passed, the New York City Council, that really has requested the Department of Education to start tracking the provision of this issue. Because at the root of it is healthy relations. It's healthy relationships. And we have to begin to look at how we educate our young people in having healthy relationships so that they can build, so that we can combat issues of violence against women, the violence in teenagers' lives. And it's not, as I like to say, about the mechanics of sex. That's the simple part. It's how do you have wholesome relationships. And when we look
Too young.
too young, and when we look at, and how can they make wise choices about their sexual lives.
Yeah.
The other issue for us at WCC, when we think of public education, we think of, our emphasis is on educating the whole human being. We care very much about the academics, but what we feel that's often omitted for myriad reasons is phys ed, sex ed, arts in schools, which really
They're taking
builds
the arts and music out, I
out.
understand.
Right. So we really need to,
That's-
as a community, as a city, come back and think about how we invest in our young people so that we give them the strongest possible foundation and a comprehensive approach, in a comprehensive way, so that they can become strong, productive adults.
Jacqueline, it must be so difficult to get the attention, to get it back on track, to say we need art, and most people think, oh, that's not important. It
Right.
is important. Arts and music. I love how you put the whole person.
It's the whole person.
Not
And
just
these
the
are all
academic
facets
side,
of
the
us.
phys
And
ed
and
the
they
whole-
reinforce each other.
Exactly.
You know, so
healthy
that's a
body,
piece, a
healthy
healthy
mind,
body.
the whole thing.
We've heard it. So
Yeah.
that's what one of the things we try to look at WCC. And then I think the Public Housing Task Force. We've spent a lot of time being very concerned about affordable housing and the availability of affordable housing in New York City, and have come to acknowledge, and many advocates do, that public housing is likely the last bastion of affordability in New York City, and we need to do everything to preserve it and improve the condition. So as we looked at this issue, we started to try to get the facts about the New York City Housing Authority. You know, many times you study and you want to
again,
jump
can't get
in
the facts.
when you want to jump in and do advocacy. And we felt an important place to start, which we, as members, we try to say, what's the foundation of this issue? And so I'm really proud to bring to you today, this is our guide, an overview of public housing in New York City, and it's really a fact booklet on the stats of NYCHA, how large NYCHA is, how many people the New York City Housing Authority employs. Over 11,000 people in this city are employed by the New York City Housing Authority. It's a
And
powerful...
to help people. Now, we can't get... We'll try this one. Can't really get a good close-up. Oh, there you go. Well, I got to move it the other way.
Good.
But these are available.
They
to,
are available to the public.
But I noticed also on your website, oh my God, you have a tremendous amount of information.
Yes.
For people to
People who need services.
have, from everything from homelessness to
After school work,
I mean,
to
it's amazing.
housing.
It's about 160 something. I didn't download
So
them all.
what we have done is
And this one as well, maybe
produce
that
a
camera.
guide, our citywide guide to services and resources. They exist in, we developed them
Oh, so
for
that's
all
the
boroughs.
same, the same
So this is
list
a-
that's on the internet.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
on
it's
the
both,
website.
it's on the website. We have it in print and online. This is the Manhattan guide. We have 5, and on September 29th at the conference, we're releasing the last 3 boroughs. So we have already done Brooklyn, Manhattan, and
okay.
Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx will be available from September 29th.
Will you actually send these to people?
We will send this to people. We have a
Oh, that's
limited
really
run, but
nice.
we send it to people. We actually send it to the nonprofits listed in the guide themselves, and they call us to ask for more. But
and
if
then they give them
individuals,
out.
if individuals want, they can call our office, and we certainly will make that available to them. The other thing about this, you know, when we did it, it started in 2012. And our members were very concerned that the recession had deepened, the Great Recession at the time, and that services were shrinking and more individuals were in need. And so we thought, how could we better connect individuals to resources in community, not citywide, but really in the community, in their own community. And we have classified these by community boards and by neighborhoods. Now we know,
lot of effort,
and
a lot of
it's a
work.
lot of effort,
Wow.
but the beauty of it, we leveraged our members. They did the verification and the identification of individuals in the guides. And we had a task force of about 15 members, and then we had an additional volunteer crew of about 12, and some young women who were graduate students and undergraduate students were incredible assets in rolling this out. So
Oh,
it's really a
great.
community effort for WCC to share this with, and it's available at no cost.
Tremendous undertaking.
Yes,
Wow.
so we're really pleased with it.
Well, I'm not going to let you get away without giving a little bit of your background. Now, you were going to do this at the beginning, and you managed to skirt around it. But just to, you know,
Well,
you have an impressive resume.
I'm an
so-
immigrant. I came to Jamaica. I came from Jamaica. Came to Jamaica.
Hey, listen,
I came from Jamaica
Jamaica's so
to Jamaica,
beautiful. I don't
Queens.
blame you, son. Oh, Jamaica, Jamaica.
I landed in Jamaica, Queens,
Quite different,
in 1980, and then had the opportunity to go to undergraduate school in Indiana. Go figure. And then came back and did
Indiana.
Indiana, and then went to school, graduate school in at SUNY Stony Brook. I have lived. I'm now married and 3 kids. We live in the Bronx, my husband, my kids and I, young women and I. And
all 3 women?
all 3 are women.
Oh, like my dad, he used to say, "Oh, I can't get a break. There's no men in this family."
So there we are in the Bronx. I've worked in the nonprofit sector or around issues on economic security for the past 28 years.
And you found your way there because that is what your passion was,
Yes. You know, at the end
school?
of the day, I think I pursued a master's in public policy. I initially thought I'd run for public office, not doing it.
Never say never, but what do you think?
And then had this great opportunity to work in this sector, this nonprofit sector. And I have worked in philanthropy as a grant maker, the New York Women's Foundation. I had the opportunity to work at Citigroup. I worked in community relations there for 4 years, linking Citigroup financial resources to low and moderate income communities and trying to identify strategies that help build economic security among the unbanked. So I've done the same thing in 28 years in different sectors.
In different sectors.
And I think it's been a fantastic opportunity, and I'm really proud to have this opportunity at the Women's City Club, because it is my firm belief that in order to create the change we seek, it's about the people. You know, democracy is of the people, for the people, by the people, whichever way it's said. And it is important that we take ownership of our voice, that we cause our representatives to be elected, and we abdicate our responsibility if we don't vote and if we don't hold them accountable. And I think that's what WCC means to me, that it's really about helping women in particular and other marginalized groups find the voice and find their space at the table and occupy that space at the table. You know, and so that's really the power of civic engagement. One of the things
I see that I think is just more and more, homelessness now is something that I'm seeing so much more of, and very young people.
It cuts across age.
Everything.
It cuts across age. It cuts
there's
across
no right
ethnicity.
Discrimination. It's everybody.
And then the scary thing of the mental health challenges that some of the homeless face, and it's such a vulnerable population, and that's why WCC has this issue of housing and homelessness, because we care so much. Folks become disconnected from families. They become disconnected from resources. And
sure, it's probably partly being ashamed that you can't get yourself in a...
So many reasons.
But if anyone is out there trying to look for an apartment, it's non-existent unless you get into...
Unless you are able to get into public housing. And the issue of affordability, and we're having a panel on this at the conference, the issue of affordability and the availability of affordable housing is really critical. And it leads to doubling up, tripling up of families. People are trying to make ends meet. The other thing is stagnant wages.
That's what they do.
You know,
get one apartment and we'll live together, because you cannot afford these apartments, really. I mean, I hear this all the time.
And that's why we are also happy, we're fortunate to support the Fight for 15, because if you don't have a living wage, cost of living in New York outstrips earning. And it creates the ripple effect in limited housing, the lack of affordable housing, the lack of quality, safe housing. It just spirals.
As you probably know, so many areas that were low-income areas where you didn't have to earn so much money to live in have become another Manhattan.
Exactly.
I had a friend who lived in one of the areas, particular in the Brooklyn area, and Williamsburg. All of a sudden, the rent would go four times the amount.
It's a challenge of what we call gentrification, right? Yeah. And so the issue is, how do we build stable, safe, healthy communities without displacing residents, right?
Right, and then the residents who,
Go ahead. The residents who were there,
who helped it to be a great neighborhood.
Exactly.
pushed out
Pushed
because
out.
now it's going to become high-rise condo. or
Exactly.
something.
Exactly. And that's the inequity. That's the inequity in the issue. That, we all need to have the opportunity to thrive in New York City. The ability to provide for oneself and one's family, and to be able to have a quality of life of which you can be pleased, about which you can be pleased, is
And proud
exactly
of.
and proud of,
Yeah.
is what we are about. So I think partnering with WCC is a way to help
I was
push
gonna
at those
say,
issues.
Get out there and volunteer. Give
Exactly.
a call to the organization, and we have about 3 minutes left.
Yes.
Is anything else you would like to touch on before
Right.
we end the show?
I think the one thing I'd like to say is that these challenges are just that, and they're very difficult. And it's important that we have a sustained effort to create change, and that once we have secured victories, we can't simply sit back and become complacent, because we'll be back on the wheel
I think
again.
that's what's
Okay,
happened
so
already,
we
so-
welcome the opportunity to engage more women and to invite them to come and join us. Visit our website, wccny.org. Many programs coming up in October, and we look forward to meeting everyone.
And I wish you a wonderful conference.
Thank you.
100
Thank you very much.
years,
100.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And you guys are doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's a big undertaking, but
Thank you, Fran. I'm really
Success.
glad you gave me this opportunity to speak to the
this
women
has
in
been
Queens.
wonderful having you on.
Thank you.
And again, get to those websites, and if you can volunteer,
Please
they
do.
have all these programs that you can volunteer if you have a certain interest in
Right.
housing, for
Yes.
instance, or schooling,
Yes.
arts, music. And I thank you so much for watching, and thank you again, Jacqueline. It's been my pleasure to have you on. You're
Thank
a
you.
wonderful guest. You've got to come back.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching. I'm Fran Pellegrino for Spotlight. See you next time. And there we are.